Who are some big names that you want to get rid of while you can get something for them?
Yeah, so one is actually a part of the trade that happened in our league a little bit earlier. So Tyreek for me, I think is someone that is a name that's out there. Especially Waddle got his big contract today. Tyreek, I think, has
Mm,
got one good year left, right? And he's going to go off. He's had that career. He's at an extreme peak, right? So you can probably get a pretty decent amount back for him right now, especially to someone that's trying to win in immediacy. They're trying to get that championship. They're trying to get their chip this year. Being able to sell Tyreek, you can probably get a lion's share back for him today, right? So I think that's one of those big names that you can probably get off your roster and not have to, if you don't need him this year, if you can live without him, or if you're happy to get back whatever you get back for him, he's going to probably fall, or high potential to fall off within the next couple of years, if not next year. And like I said, I work these things in 3-year cycles, so he's within that 3-year window now where he's probably going to fall off. So that's the time where I'd be looking to sell him.
yeah, would you be looking to sell him as a contender as well? Like if you're a contender, you happen to win the last 2 years. Would you, if he was on your team, would you sell him right now, or would you just ride him into the ground?
So good question. One thing that I take a look at is I'm really heavy on wide receiver today, right? So, depending on the needs, I'd be willing to part with him as long as I can get that lion's share back, because I have Puka Nakua, I have Amon-Ra St. Brown on my team. I've got some big pieces that I would be willing to let go of Tyreek, and in that same vein, I let go of Waddle very recently.
Yeah.
So
what if it was to me?
Yeah, probably not so much. It would be one of these trades where I'd be trading him to someone that I'm not going to be sad if I lose to. But yeah. Now you have an interesting name on this list as well. Walk me through this one.
So, okay, so this is it's Kincaid. And this is somebody I traded for. And this is somebody, and I traded for before like Diggs moved out and all. And I was torn on having him on the list here, but this is just an important example of the type of player that you have to be okay with letting go. And that's a player, if the hype is out there and the what you're getting for the trade is your maximum of what you're hoping and projecting that he will accomplish, then that might be a time that you want to trade. So Kincaid right now, a lot of assumptions are that he's the number one pass catcher on that team. I feel more high on Curtis Samuel than most people. I feel a little lower, but I'm also looking at 106 on Coleman. Like it's starting to creep in there. So like Coleman's there, but it's so unknown that he could be the one. He could be the 3. And are you right now getting a trade offered to you that is considering him the number 1? Because if you're getting the best case scenario for a player, then that's, even if you believe it, that might be the time to at least consider if you can move out of it. I had Pitts on my team earlier this year, and Kincaid. This let me get rid of Pitts, which I believe is a buy. I felt Kincaid was safer. If I still had Pitts on my team, I would be trading Kincaid and not Pitts because of how much higher on the ranking he is, and I feel that Pitts can make that jump up. So it depends on what you can get in return. If you can replace it either through the draft, which is tough with the tight end, or if you have somebody else on the roster or part of the trade. If you can get somebody to move off of Kincaid, I would. I wouldn't move him myself for McBride because I have Josh Allen. I do value the stack, but McBride is one of those ones that I would trade for. That some people value Kincaid right now over McBride. Some people look at Kincaid as a possible Laporta, like a tier just down from Laporta that he could jump above. And if somebody believes that he can jump above and they're willing to pay for it like that, and I could get a Laporta, which is not a realistic piece, but you have those emotional trades there where people really feel something about somebody and they want to make the move, then those are the type of things I would move it for. But I wouldn't move it for just to move him.
Well, I think you'd be okay if you, because I think I've worked this out for your scenario, right? So if you were to trade him for Sam McBride, you can definitely like get that value back, or maybe not even McBride, just trade him for whatever line share you can get, because you'll be able to get Brock Bowers at the 3, right? And then you can go grab Keon Coleman and still have your stack at the 6, right? I think you'd be totally okay, totally fine there.
Does this have anything to do with you having the 4?
I wouldn't worry about that so much right now. I just I'm just trying to think of this in a vacuum for you and make it beneficial, right? You're really concerned about not being able to get that tight end value back. Brock Bowers is out there, and he's touted as
he's out there. He's hanging out with Mayers.
Yeah,
Is it Mayers or Myers?
I want to say Michael Mayers because I don't think he's Michael Myers. Just sounds like we're just thinking of.
Oh yeah, I think that's why I'm thinking Myers, because I wanted it to be Myers so bad. Yeah. But now he's not going to be cool enough to have a nickname with Bowers there. You've got one that's emotional to you, but even more so because fantasy and real life team. Tell me about why you hate Herbert.
Okay, I saw that coming. So here's the deal, y'all. We know that Justin Herbert has shown that he's top 5 talent, right? He's in fantasy. He's someone that has been there. He can throw for 5,000 yards. And he's at the peak and pinnacle. And he's still going to do those things and have that talent. But as you all know, as the world knows, the team seems to be leaning in a different direction, which doesn't make a ton of sense. But if you were able to... What's that? It does for football. Sure.
Not for fantasy.
It does for football, for sure. It does and it doesn't, because you still have Justin Herbert. So if your team goes completely run heavy and doing things that just lean on your run game and a great defense, which are the right things to do for football, are you wasting a Justin Herbert? And so you're just really thinking through, like, are they considering that? So if you were able to, and this is more of it might be too late now, but if you were able to, just on talent and the peak of who Justin Herbert is and what he was able to pull off as these changes have happened, maybe pre-draft, if you were able to sell him away, great. And I think you still can, because in that 3-year cycle, the Chargers have a tendency to run through coaching staffs pretty quickly. So you never know what's going to happen here. But Justin Herbert's
tough to buy a non-mobile quarterback, though.
So here's the deal. They say that quite a bit about Herbert, but the dude's got a season where he had a high level, and I don't remember the exact number. I have to go back and look, but he had a ton of rushing touchdowns a couple years ago, right? He has the running capability. We call him more of a scrambler than a runner, but if he is in an offense now where they can pivot to using that for some designed runs, because remember the last couple of years, he was a running quarterback. He just injured his ribs really badly last year. He had a leg injury before that. So they didn't utilize him in those ways. But he is a running quarterback, or at least he had a history of being one at Oregon.
Yeah, I don't know about his Oregon stats. He has 11 touchdowns in his career in the NFL. 5.303. His rookie year, though, is probably like that as a rookie combined with what he was doing with throwing probably made that like stand out to you. I think when it comes to like football, I think it is the right move, because anytime you can have a strong run game and defense and then your quarterback on top of that can throw, I think that it's not going to be as aggressive as what people are imagining. But for fantasy, because this is the news that gets mixed up, it feels like it's going to be so aggressive. But I don't feel like they'll just not utilize the man. They just, don't have a ton of people to throw to. But I think that in fantasy, I don't know if it'll be enough to push him over. I don't know if it'll be enough to push him over the edge there to make it like relevant.
Yeah, you're probably not going to find a lot of buyers, so it might be too late in the game for this, but you probably wanted to sell him a few weeks back, leading into the draft. But I just haven't been there because maybe it's a little bit of heartburn that I have him on my team and he's my only starting quarterback. And I'm a ride or die with him at this point.
I'm excited about that. Personally, I think that you have a very glaring weakness in your fantasy team, and I'm happy that my biggest strength in Josh Allen actually came from you. There's one.
It's gonna have to dominate at other positions. I think is.
There's one more player that we need to talk about, and and it can be a really quick hit. But this is a really good example of an aging player. Like you said, Tyreek Hill. I think the equivalent, the closest, like right between what I'm going to talk about and Tyreek Hill is Diggs, where you can. I feel it's time to trade away, especially after that Nico contract. I already felt like you got Nico and Tank maybe above him, but Adams is the type of one that still has a name. And this is a really good example of someone to trade away. They have the name, they have the success, they have a very clear. There's a visual that we'll throw up that I saw from Football Insights, and there's a clear dip. And if this was a stock market and a stock that I was looking to like buy or sell or hold, it would be a sell. Because it looks like it's still towards the top of his game in recent memory, yet the decline is strong, and it's apparent, and everything in the story says to get out now, and you can get something for him. Honestly, I don't know where he is in the trade calculators and what you could get for him, but I think honestly, I would take a third or a second, and if I wasn't a contender, and just get out of it right now. But how do you feel about Adams?
Yeah, I think you could sell him on that, mainly because he's shown the ability to be quarterback agnostic a little bit. And he might have had 15 points per game, and that been the lowest he's had in the last like 6 years or whatever, based on the visual. 15 points per game is not anything to shy away from. So I feel like you could probably sell it on that alone. That for the last since 2016, he's averaged more than 15 points a game, right? And
Here's a
that
good one
name
that
carries.
We talked about this player earlier, and this Adams is ranked higher than him. So would you trade? And this is in the keep trade cut again. I use it as public opinion, not as a gospel on a ranking. Would you trade Devontae Adams away to get Rashee Rice?
That's a good one. I think because of the downward spiral, or not spiral, but the downward fall of Adams and what he's looking at, and the possible potential for upward trajectory for Rashee Rice. Man is good. Man's got talent. Hopefully we're just looking at a shorter suspension or just a suspension, but with Rashee Rice, he's got the talent that can carry him into being a high-performing Devontae Adams, high numbers of the future. So I'd probably trade into Rashee Rice and trade away from Devontae Adams.
Yeah, I think that's a great I think that's a great point to illustrate how high Adams still is and how low Rice is. I feel like it's very easy to.
Yeah.
I would smash accept if somebody sent me that, and I would be on the receiving end of Rice.
Yeah.
And I think that illustrates those 2 points really well.